welcome back to Coffee and Tea with Justin and Tashina. I'm Tashina, and I'm here with Justin.
Yeah.
And today's episode
is an evening episode for one thing.
Yes,
We're
definitely.
sitting here sipping on these wines, which I realize now at the beginning of when we started recording, I made a joke about the drinks, but now the joke is not really going to make any sense because
Nope.
now people already know the truth.
I think they'll still appreciate the joke.
I hope so.
I think so.
Oh, good.
So today.
Tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We talked about
the latest Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
A lot.
Basically, it's
It's
all we
the whole
talked about.
episode, pretty much.
It's pretty much all we talked about, and
Yeah.
we basically just complained about it.
We didn't just complain. I think
just complained.
we talked about what we liked, what we didn't like, and just overall feelings about the movie, which if you've seen it, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, just want to note one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I did like it. Mm-hmm. And overall, I'm glad we watched it.
Same.
However, the worries and concerns I had about it pretty much all turned out to be accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I enjoyed it overall. I liked it overall. Kylo deserved better. That's all I'm saying. So that's what we talked about. There were a couple things you wanted to talk about, though, right? In the intro.
well, one thing I wanted to say is that I'm just continuing to enjoy my headphones. So thank you, Ruda. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. And Kelly, I just want to again express that Tashina and I are both so grateful to both of you for being so generous.
You're so thoughtful.
Yeah.
And we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Seriously. These are just, it's a dream come true to have these wonderful headphones.
Yeah.
We reached out to both of them and they were both kind enough to say, well, now that you have two pairs, do whatever you want with the third pair. And Sheena and I were kind of going back and forth on what to do. We decided that what we're most likely going to do is return one of the pairs, the surplus pair, and then it looks like the only option is for us to get an Amazon credit to our account. So we're planning to use that for something else for the show.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be coffee and tea related as opposed to gear related.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to get Tashina something that she has been wanting for years. And when I say for years, like years.
I've been using the same French press for 8 years.
Right.
So
And you've been wanting a pour over coffee thing for ever.
Yeah.
So we're probably, that's what we're leaning toward is like a pour over coffee thing and then probably like a gooseneck kettle because apparently that's how you're supposed to use them. Anyway.
Yeah. We're undecided, but.
Yeah, but it'll be something to do with the overarching theme of coffee and tea. So thank you both very, very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you to everybody watching. What are you grateful for, my beautiful, wonderful girlfriend?
I'm grateful that you've been so sweet today. I'm not saying that to be like facetious or condescending, but you've been very sweet today, and I'm grateful for it.
Terrible I normally am.
No, I'm just saying it feels like, I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
I have been a little more affectionate to you today than I normally am. And I think also I've just had so much going on in my head.
Yeah.
That it's not that I've been, I've been doing, my brain has been working on other things aside from our relationship. So thank you for being patient with me there.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What else are you grateful for?
I'm grateful that we have like food and all our basics covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. What are you grateful for?
Well, I'm feeling really grateful that I got out and went for a bike ride today.
Yeah, I think that was good for you.
Yeah. I had ordered 2 new bike tubes and installed them yesterday and went for my first ride. I pulled the tires off of your bike, but the tubes wouldn't work with my... Anyway, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to have gotten out and ridden my bike. I'm grateful that we live in Salt Lake. Even, especially, I think the more we've talked recently about moving and leaving, the more I've kind of sort of come to but remember how much I love it here. Just, to go on a bike ride and it's nice and cool. There's like a sweet little breeze and you just see these beautiful snow-covered mountains.
Yeah, the mountains are beautiful.
Yeah, I think that I forgot how long the snow lasts on the mountains. And because of that, I sort of forgot how incredible it is that it can be 70, 80, maybe 90 degrees down here in the basin or valley or whatever you call this. And you can still look up and see these incredible, just beautiful, beautiful snow-capped mountains. It's just, I don't know. I love living here. Not here in this apartment, but this area. I love it so much. And just so grateful for that. And also, specifically kind of where in the valley we are, because the mountains are so close that if we were 6, 7, 5 even miles further north or south, we wouldn't have the view that we have. Yeah. And I think that the view was something that I really fell in love with, especially the first, couple months that we were here. We would always walk outside and the first thing you see is those mountains. It's just, I don't know. It's
beautiful.
I can see why people that live here believe in God. That's, I feel like it's that level of beauty that I could see how if you were persecuted and came here to flee persecution and then found this area, although, obviously people were already living here, so pioneers can calm down about discovering new lands. My point is just that I can understand how somebody might come here and choose to trade or steal or borrow, well, not borrow, but take over this land as their promised land and see it as like a sign from God. Like it's just so beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's very beautiful.
Obviously, I don't feel that way because I don't believe in God, but but I can see how other people might.
Yeah.
Yeah. You okay over there?
Yeah.
You don't like that I took it down this
I don't like that you took it down to a path tying it to anyway.
All I'm saying is that if you already believe in all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you come here and see that, I could see how it could reinforce this belief that there is a God, that there is a greater something out there.
Yeah.
Which I do believe that there's something, but I just think of it as energy. Anyway, okay. You just don't like that I seem to always bring it back to genocide of Native people?
I think it's a part of the history of this area that is not touched on enough. But I don't know that this is the place to touch on it.
You're right. This podcast is meant to be a positive distraction from things like imperialism and genocide and indoctrination of Native cultures. You're right. You are right about. You're totally right.
Yeah.
And also, we've discussed doing evening podcasts where we dive into anything that's on our minds instead of trying to keep it positive.
That's true.
And if I want to dive into that stuff, then I should make the effort to do that and not just sort of overtake coffee and tea with things. Which, by the way, it's not like it's something I want to talk about. It's just it just comes up sometimes.
Yeah. And in this context, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
All right. Well, let's get back to positivity, and I'll say one more thing that I'm grateful for, which is our little fur babies. Where are you?
Bagheera's behind
There's
you.
One right
he was
here.
just rubbing his face on the lamp, which was really cute. Bagheera's pills did arrive. Thank you to everyone for asking. I think they're starting to kick in.
Yeah.
He slept through the night last night.
He's adjusting back. Yes.
Yeah. But I appreciate the comments about him and that. And thank you for that.
Yeah. I also want to say thanks to everybody. Bagheera. Thanks to everybody who commented about the sound effects. I sort of think that maybe, tell us what you think about this, but should we have sound effects be a regular like a sound effects competition be a regular thing? And then is there a way to involve the audience? For example, Anchor, I believe, has a thing where you can call and leave us a voice memo. So you can comment and leave a voice memo. And so maybe listeners would call in and say, this is my chosen sound effect that I want you to try for the
Kira does not like this idea.
Try for the sound effects competition between us, and then maybe they do their best sound effect of that.
I like that.
And that way we can play that clip on the show. It can be a part of it. Also, people could just submit in the comments, do this sound, because I do feel like part of our struggle in the past has been just coming up with sounds, which you would think would be easy, but
it's hard.
It's weird in the moment to try to think of a sound.
Yeah.
And then you get caught up in not thinking about other sounds.
Yeah. You get in your head very easily. But Yura is really into your tools that are over there, by the way. He keeps sitting with them.
Probably because they remind him of his hometown of Long Beach, because that's where I bought them all.
He's like, these smell familiar.
I think it's just a new place to stay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you say? Should we jump into this episode? Should we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump in.
Hello, beautiful girlfriend.
Hi.
What you drinking there?
I am drinking some Bogle Sauvignon Blanc.
Wow, it's a little early for wine, don't you think?
It's never too early for wine.
Yikes.
We lived in Napa.
Wow. That is intense.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. It's actually nighttime.
Yeah. I think it's like 8 p.m. right now, I think.
Yeah. Last night we were hanging out, getting ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
And I saw that Rise of Skywalker was finally available to rent.
Yeah.
Obviously online. We didn't go to a video store. Do video stores... I feel like I need to do disclaimer, like we didn't go to a video store to watch a movie, but also where do you find a video store?
There's one in Bend, Oregon still.
Right. It's a Blockbuster, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the last one.
The last Blockbuster to exist. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we're not drinking wine at 6 a.m.
No, we ended up staying up really late.
Oh, right. That's what happened. Yeah. I thought, well, we'll just watch like half an hour of it.
You can't just watch half an hour of a Star Wars movie.
I don't know. I think you're only saying that because you haven't seen episodes 1 through 3.
Okay, of the others.
I feel like some of those you can only watch at max half an hour.
Yeah, the one that you had me watch part of, so I would have context
the Phantom Menace episode 1.
Yeah, I think I watched like 10 minutes and it was painful.
Yeah.
To sit through 10 minutes of it. So
yeah.
Okay, point taken. Anyways, we did not get up early.
No. Well, by the time we were done watching the movie, I just looked at my phone. It was like 1:30.
Yeah.
It's like, what a massive shift in sleeping schedules, especially what we had been doing.
Yeah. And then today we thought we would record earlier, but we ended up both getting just like caught up in work.
True. What did you work on today?
I drafted up some blog content. I posted some sponsored Instagram stuff. I took care of some emails. Just kind of all over the place. I deleted a bunch of emails. That felt good, like cleaning out.
Just like nonsense.
Yeah, or like all these brands doing sales right now, which I like to get them so I know if it's a brand I really like or that like, the audience really likes, I can share stuff. But lately I've just been deleting most of them. Yeah.
Since I have the generic email address linked to go to my, forward to my address or whatever, I get a lot of brands subscribing me to their email list that I never asked to be subscribed to.
Yeah, brands do that to me too because mine's the one on Instagram. It's so rude. It's illegal, first of all.
It's rude and it's illegal.
But it's just rude. Don't add me to your random email list.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's weird because you're like, how is this helping you? Like, don't you aren't you worried that I'm going to get this email and then be like, okay, well, now I'm going to like send this to spam and unsubscribe from this thing I never subscribed to?
Yeah.
Like, is that really the first interaction you want me to have with your emails?
Oh, I've done that, and where it has an option to give a reason for unsubscribing, I say I didn't sign up.
Right, yeah.
And
I always do that too.
If I've definitely, when I've seen some of those brands on sponsored content platforms, or they've emailed me being like, we want to send you PR, I've mentioned it in my replies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been like, hey, your products do look interesting, but you added me to the email list, and so I'm worried about how you would treat my audience.
You've said that to people? Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
To brands where I was like, I just think I think a lot of times they do it not realizing that it's illegal, but I think it's always in bad form, and I think brands know that. But I also think sometimes they hire people to like build their email lists that are third-party people, and that's how they do it. Like, I think they aren't always fully aware.
True.
But yeah, I have said that before.
Okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of Star Wars? The Rise of Skywalker.
I don't know. I'm glad we watched it. Mm-hmm. But I also don't know that I got anything from it. I felt like it was...
What were you looking to get from it?
I thought that they were going to kind of like tie up everything in the plot. And I feel like...
Whoa. Oh, a bug just fell from the ceiling. Ew. It's on the table now.
Ew.
Gross.
Wait,
Did one fall in my wine too?
There's
No.
Okay.
But that was super gross.
That was really gross. I was wondering what your look was
Pause.
about.
What were you saying before we were so rudely interrupted?
Okay. So I wanted, knowing it's the final movie, I wanted closure on a lot of the different plot lines they had going. Mm-hmm. And I think there were so many different plot lines going because they had two different directors. So I feel like it would have made this movie challenging for any director. I felt like they did a nice tribute to Carrie Fisher. I appreciated that.
Truth. Yeah.
That was great.
That was great. Yeah.
I liked them bringing back Luke and Han for little cameos. Mm-hmm. But I feel like instead of tying up a lot of the plot stuff that was in the other movies, they kind of just were like, we're just going to ignore this now. We're just going to forget that happened.
Like what? What were some that you felt that way about?
I felt like the stuff with Kylo and Rey, I didn't feel like I was not satisfied with that ending. I didn't feel like the stuff with Rey and Finn was satisfying. I felt like the end for Poe was not very interesting.
Where he's like, so you want to hook up? And the woman's like, nah. And then he just like walks away.
Yeah. Like I just felt like.
That was his ending, right?
Yeah.
Or am I forgetting something? Yeah.
I liked Chewie's ending where he got the medal.
Yeah.
I just felt like they were kind of like, well, this is the last one. So what's the quickest way to do this?
Which is weird because it took 2.5 hours to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's a pretty long movie.
It was a pretty long movie. And it was entertaining. I felt like there was a lot of, like with the other new ones, there was a lot of that Disney cheesiness in it, which is fun. But I felt like, I feel like because J.J. Abrams did the first one and the third one and someone else did the second one, I just felt like there was already so much disconnect in not just character relationships, but character dialogue and character development just between the first and the second, that I think the third one kind of would have been messy no matter what.
Well, the original trilogy was directed by different people.
Yeah, I know. But wasn't it written? I don't know if these ones were written by the same people, but I don't know. It just felt different.
Yeah. My point is just that I don't think that it came out the way that it did because it was directed by different people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I could see that maybe. I guess I just feel like the directors do have a sway in how things go. They do have a sway in things, and it seemed like the different directors wanted different outcomes for the characters than each other did.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could really pick up on that.
My point is just that was the issue.
Yeah.
Not that they were different directors.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry.
That's
I know it's kind of splitting hairs there. I just.
Okay. Yeah. That's the issue is I felt like between the first movie and the second movie, they were creating different character arcs and character relationships for the different characters that were not consistent with each other.
Yeah.
So then in the third one, you're like, okay, so where is this supposed to go? And so I felt like a lot of it then wasn't satisfying because I felt like they also had to pick what they thought would make people happy versus necessarily what they wanted.
Right, like Rose's storyline, how at the end of it, it's very clear that she and Finn are going to have a relationship and that she's going to be involved in the resistance in a more intense way. And then she's just like barely in the movie.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I never felt like she and Finn had a connection in the second movie. It felt very forced to me. It didn't feel real. I felt like she would be much more involved in the resistance, but I didn't feel that there was this love story between them. It felt forced and awkward and uncomfortable to me in the second movie. Personally. Yeah, and I just feel like for how much they developed Kylo as a character and how much they could have developed him more, same with Rey, but especially Kylo, I feel like that was just like, really? Like this is the end of this character who has this crazy backstory, and like I don't know, it just was like Kylo deserved better, I feel like.
Yeah. I know I mentioned this to you last night, but I sort of thought they didn't need to kill him off. Like it, in my opinion, would have been a more powerful, exciting ending if they had not killed him off.
Yeah.
And if he and Rey had then gone on to start training a new generation of Jedi.
Or even if they didn't, just have him going from the dark side to the light and becoming a Jedi would have like just added so much momentum.
Well, that is what they did, though. He just died after it.
But that's the thing, though, is that he realized it, but no one else did. There was no
But that was also Vader's storyline too.
Yeah, I guess that's
just
true. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It would have. There's a lot that they could have done.
Yeah.
That didn't necessarily have to involve him dying at the very end. I mean, they could have also had that happen sooner, and then had like maybe his and Rey's battle against the Emperor could have started earlier, and the movie could have been more about them together fighting against it.
Totally. Or even just like more of the like, why was the scene where C-3PO getting reset, why was that so long and such a comedic scene? And then it felt like that scene was longer than Kylo's redemption scene. I felt like maybe it's because sitting through it, I was just like, I don't understand why this is in here except for it to make little kids laugh.
Yeah.
But like, why was that scene so long? That took such a chunk out of the movie that it didn't need to.
I thought also going to Kylo's storyline being longer, I was really hoping that there would have been more about the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Like, even just at the end when he's fighting them, if there had been maybe like any sort of dialogue. I don't really know that much about the Knights of Ren, but I suppose that's my point. Like, I feel like this was such a good opportunity to have shown how they were formed.
Yeah.
The stuff that he did with them. Like, you know, he's struggling with who he is. Similar to how he was struggling before he killed Han.
Yeah.
He's struggling with this, and maybe it could have like shown more of what he had done before to sort of like make him think this is who he had to be, even though he didn't want to be that way anymore. Also, they could have totally done something. I don't know. Now I'm just kind of going off on the thing here, but maybe something with him connecting with Luke.
Yeah.
And forgiving each other, or I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. I feel like there could have been. I feel like all this could have happened in the last movie.
Yes.
Or I don't know, or maybe there should have been 4.
Yeah. It felt rushed. It felt rushed and incomplete in a lot of ways.
For how long it was, some of the storylines seemed a little rushed, yeah.
Yeah, and some of it was just, there was no point to it.
I'm also in agreement with people that are like, cool, so you left the last movie with this thought that I don't know, just this vibe that kind of anyone could potentially be a Jedi, and that it wasn't just these families, and then they brought it back and said, nope, just kidding. It's like just this battle of these 2 families forever. Like, what? Seriously? Come
they
on.
kind of hinted that Finn had some sort of thing going on in parts of it, where he was definitely more in tune with stuff than other people were. And then they're like, nope, never mind.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird I also... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I felt like, okay, in the old movies, there was the obvious, like, Princess Leia, Han dynamic. But I felt like in these ones, especially in the second one and the third one, there were too many forced romantic plot lines that did not need to be there. And I feel like it's because any more movies are somehow expected to have that. But I felt like in this one, they were like, maybe Finn likes Rey. Maybe he likes this other person. What will he do?
Maybe Poe likes Rey. Maybe Finn and Poe have kind of a rivalry because they both like Rey.
Yeah, like I felt like there were so many forced...
Maybe Rey just wants everyone to leave her alone so she can become a Jedi.
Like, the fact that most power dynamics were created around romantic plot lines was very strange to me, because it wasn't the case in the original movies. I mean, to a degree between Luke and Han it was in the first one, but it didn't need to be there. And so I felt like there were just there were scenes that were overly childlike. There were scenes with this like unnecessary, weird, forced sexual vibe in there that just was awkward. Like they did it in the second movie too. Like, yeah, I don't know.
It seemed like a lot of it was really predictable.
Yeah.
Which was a little frustrating because I kept waiting for something to happen that I was like, oh, whoa, I did not see that coming.
Yeah. I didn't see, is it Hux? The guy that was in Harry Potter?
When he's the mole?
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I mean, but then after it happens, you're like, oh, this makes sense with his character. So it makes sense, but I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that every dialogue and scene, but there were just so many things that it was just so, like, when Rey gets the second lightsaber, Leia's lightsaber, and she has both of them, like, you knew immediately, oh,
One's
okay,
for Kylo.
One of those is for Kylo.
Yeah, but I do like how they continued to show how intertwined the two characters were. Like, I think that's one thing that they've consistently done throughout the movies in varying ways, and I do appreciate that. Even though it's predictable, I appreciate that they kept that going.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I agree with you.
Yeah.
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 I would have liked to have seen more of Rey's training too. And like she calls Leia master, which that, like, I wish they would have dove further into that.
Yeah.
Because she kind of also says it kind of under her breath, like Leia. I don't know. I had so much hesitancy to see this, which is why we didn't see it in the theaters.
Yeah.
Even we had people who were like, hey, we have free tickets. Do you want to come with us? And we didn't go.
Yeah.
And part of it was because I was sort of worried that I would be underwhelmed. And there was definitely stuff that I liked.
Yeah.
But yeah, underwhelming. Zombie Palpatine was just kind of like...
Was he a zombie? I thought it was just meant to show, like, how... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was trying to be funny.
Oh.
I didn't literally mean he was a zombie.
I was like, that's a weird plot twist to throw in.
Although, I mean, he, in a way, I think kind of was. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess he must not have ever actually died.
Yeah.
But like, there was just so much that I felt like you said, they didn't close a lot of plot lines. I felt like there was a lot of stuff they didn't answer, and then they created more questions that seemed like they weren't necessary. And like, I don't know, like Palpatine having these like ships come out of a planet and like nobody knows where they came from. Like, it just felt very like first Pirates of the Caribbean movie to me, which just sort of, I don't know. I just, and I can appreciate that. I'm sure somebody who's really into Star Wars will be like, oh, well, this is the backstory, blah, 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 blah. And that's cool. And I definitely think that there should be some backstory outside of the movie.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fair. But I just, it seemed like they were like playing way too into what they knew people wanted and expected. And then on the other side, doing all this stuff that somebody who's just a casual fan would be like, wait, so the Emperor fell down this shaft in the Death Star, which then exploded moments later, not only survived, but made it to this planet where there are these apparently massive numbers of followers. I wouldn't, I mean, they say it's a Sith planet, so I suppose maybe Sith aren't like Jedi in that you're either Jedi or not. Like maybe the Sith just have weird dark Sith cult followers. I don't know. There was so much that I was like, come on.
Well, couldn't it be the dark version? Like I didn't realize the Sith, like I knew it was dark energy. I didn't realize, to me, the vibe I got is it ties in with like the occult and like dark arts and things like that. So, and also then looking at how like Yoda and Luke are represented, could that have been what some of those were? Like just that continued dark energy of these people.
Oh, a Force ghost.
Yeah, basically. Like not all of them, but with Palpatine, like again, I didn't realize, like I knew the Sith were dark. I didn't think about it in the terms of like dark arts, and that's definitely how it felt, was that like he had such powerful dark energy that's why he was still around, and that's why a lot of them were, is they were so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about why he was still around.
Yeah, like
he was such a powerful Jedi. I mean, still, to me, it's still kind of like, how did he get out of the Death Star?
Yeah, I was.
But
yeah.
Okay, but let's say he did. Fine. Again, my question would still be, where are all these other people from? And if they're all like Sith Force ghosts, I don't know. It seems, I don't know. I guess my point is like, sure, maybe, but like, really, we had to do that.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot that I wish, like things like that, I wish they would have just touched on it. Like again, going back to my thing of why was the scene of C-3PO getting his memory wiped so long, but they didn't even throw in like a 2-sentence thing that could have given context for that.
And then they just give him his memory back.
Yeah, R2.
From R2, who C-3PO himself alleges that R2 either doesn't back him up, or like his C-3PO's response to the question about whether R2 backs up his memory seemed weird, because he's like, R2 has notoriously bad memory banks, which is, first of all, okay, that was funny. I appreciated that reference.
Yeah.
But like, he was still backing him up though. Like you still knew there was a chance. Like why all the drama about like looking at my friends for the last time? I like it when in movies sad stuff happens and they just let it be sad.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Like sometimes just let the audience be sad. Like in Rogue One, where they kill off all the main characters. That to me was like, wow, that's really sad.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, it's kind of the point is that they're setting everything up for the next movies and saying, yeah, these people sacrificed their lives to be able to fight against the Empire. And I just feel like we could have just let C-3PO not have his memory back. Like, it's sad, but it's also kind of a new beginning. And like Rey is having her new beginning. Ben Solo had his new beginning. Like, there's just so many things that are just like, God, like, just let us be sad.
Yeah. And I will say overall, like, I didn't dislike it. Again, I just feel like I don't know what I was supposed to get out of it. I think that's mostly what it is. Entertained. But
I'm just kidding.
But like that, I guess that's basically it. I don't know how to feel about it.
So what did you like about it?
Okay. I liked their tribute to Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned, I liked the ending for Chewie. I appreciated that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I liked that they did show a bit more of Kylo's dilemma. I wish they would have gone deeper into it, but I'm glad that they at least showed more of him as a human. Like, they showed more of Ben, not Kylo.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I liked that. I liked that they touched on, like, the struggle for it, like, at the end with Palpatine, and then how basically, like, the rebellion, like, almost fell, basically. Like, I appreciated that they weren't going to just let it be super easy for them and show the struggle. I liked that Lando, that they put him in it.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty great. Yeah. Him and Chewie. Like,
yeah, that was another thing that, like, as soon as his character fully masked and covered appears, I was like, in my head thinking, oh, well, that's Lando. It was just so... and maybe a lot of this is that they did these really subtle callbacks that in my subconscious, that's how I, like, maybe if I compare their characters, I might see some similarities in costume, and maybe that's what triggered it in my head. It's not like I'm some kind of genius, but it just felt like whatever the reason for the ease of predictability, it was still easy to...
I will
say... but I know we were talking about things we liked.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
No. And I think kind of to that point, I think that's something that actually J.J. Abrams is really good at, is putting in these little things that you notice, but you might not consciously realize that you notice them. Also, I really like that Dom Monaghan was in it. Speaking of J.J. Abrams and Lost, I really appreciated that cameo. But yeah, that's something like I think J.J. Abrams is so good at putting in those tiny little details that you don't even pick up on, but you do. And so to your point, I fully think that there were little clues that led you to know it was Lando. So I think stuff that might seem predictable, I think some of it, if you've been paying attention, if you're familiar with the Star Wars universe, if you're a fan, you're going to pick up on it. And to you, it's predictable through these small things, but to other people, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I don't know. I feel like, yeah. Again, I don't know how to feel. I liked a lot of things about it. I just felt like the ending was not satisfying.
Yeah, that's
a good summary.
Let's get back into the stuff that we liked.
Yeah.
I did the small bit of Rey's training that we did see. I did really enjoy.
Yeah.
I thought there were a lot of good parts that showed that she's still struggling, she's still learning, but also showed that she's very strong and very capable.
Yeah. And I liked seeing her training then, and then you reflect on what Luke's training under Yoda was. Like, that was kind of fun because there were small nods in that scene to Luke and Yoda's training.
Yeah. Okay. This is tough because I think overall I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But every time I think about something that I liked about it, I think of something else that I didn't like about it. I'm trying to now steer away from that and just stay positive.
Yeah.
I think that I had my expectations so low for this movie that I didn't really allow myself to think about what I wanted out of it. And now that I'm reflecting back on all the things that I think, I knew the whole time I wanted that I didn't get out of it, I'm like, I wish this was there. I agree with you. I think that the tribute to Carrie Fisher was really nice.
Yeah.
I think it was really beautiful. I sort of thought that could have even been drawn out a little more, like just to have had a little more sorrow shown.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that was more my personal views in regard to real life and not in regard to the movie, because in the movies people die and they are mourned, but it's not some long grieving process.
Yeah.
Especially in something like this where they're in the middle of a war and people are dying every day and they have to move on because there's another battle coming up and they can't afford to mourn.
Totally.
Yep.
I like that they developed Finn a bit more in a different way. Like he felt more confident.
Yeah.
His character.
Yeah.
And I think too, it might just be that the actor's more comfortable in that role by now too. But like, I like their development of Finn. But I've also always really liked Finn as a character.
Yeah.
And felt like they like frequently he's frequently cut short in scenes and things like that. And like they touch on his potential as a character, but don't really give him growth. And I felt like in this one, they actually gave him a lot of that growth.
Huh.
I think that was good. I do like that they downplayed. I think they made Poe a little goofy, but I like that they downplayed Poe being this like, I'm Poe, I'm amazing. This is my idiot friend Finn. Like, I'm glad that they changed that dynamic
from him. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it just comes from they were trying to make Poe the new Han.
Were they?
I felt like they were, especially in the second movie.
Huh.
And so I appreciate that they stopped doing that. Because, like, just let Han be Han.
Yeah.
And let Poe be Poe. And I felt like in this movie, they really let Finn come out as a character of his own.
Yeah.
I think that was good. I liked that you got to see a lot of characters that even though they were just cameos in other movies, I liked that they were there.
Like who?
Well, I guess not cameos in other movies, more of cameos in this movie. A lot of the people in the background, it was the same actors as in some of the other movies.
Sure. Yeah.
So I appreciated that. Carrie Fisher's daughter, things like that. But also just some of the people that were literally just in the background were the same.
Yeah.
So I like that continuity.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's something like J.J. Abrams in particular is really good at.
Huh.
I think too, because I was a big Lost fan, there are a lot of things about him as a director and creator that you learned watching Lost. And then you kind of see some of those same things in this movie and in the first one. And it's cool to see because he's, like I said, he pays such close attention to these tiny little seemingly minute details. And then like weaves this thread through all these things that don't necessarily seem like they would be connected. So I think that's something he did a really good job of. I wish he would have directed. I wish they'd all been directed by the same person.
Well, they had offered that to him.
Yeah.
And he said no.
Do you remember why he said no?
Because they wouldn't let him see the script, I think.
Yeah. And then he said he regretted it later, which I get. Like, that would be weird to sign on to direct something and not see the script. I get it. But it was a mistake on his part, fully. I'm glad he did the third one. I think he was especially for the first one, I think he was the right director to pick. And I'm curious, I'm so curious to see how this all would have flowed if it had been him or not, but if it had just been the same director. Again, I know not everything hinges on the director, but I'm curious because to me, they seem to have such very different visions of what the characters were like and what they wanted for the movie. Or the writers did, or I don't know. Someone was not on the same page consistently in the movies. But I enjoyed a lot about the third one. The ending was not satisfying. That's my bottom line.
Yeah.
So, if the ending had felt a little more satisfying, I think I would have felt better about the movie overall. It was entertaining, for sure. It was enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Cool.
Yep.
I love that they went to the wreckage of the Death Star.
Yeah, that was pretty rad to see.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, and I like that Finn met other deserters.
Yeah, totally.
Stormtrooper deserters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say one thing I was a little bit surprised by, that I was pleasantly surprised by, was when the dude turns around and shoots Huxley.
Yeah.
But you kind of knew as soon as he was helping them that he wasn't going to make it out.
Yeah, you knew.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of thoughts. A lot of thoughts about that movie.
Yeah. I did like that turn for his character of him being the mole, though, because it perfectly fit with his weird dynamic with Kylo. Like, that was perfect for him.
Yeah. Okay. A couple other things that I wish. These aren't necessarily like negatives, but things that I wish, maybe missed opportunities. I think it would have been rad. So I think you've seen the pod racing scene from episode 1.
Unfortunately.
Well, I think that was one of the redeeming scenes of that movie. And I think that when they were going through the desert and they're being chased on these... Stormtroopers are chasing them on these weird bikes for some reason, which also didn't make a lot of sense to me. I think that would have been... That environment would have been a cool opportunity to have had something to do with pod racing and to have made that... Even if it were just not so much just an open field for the whole thing and then like a little bit of going through a canyon, but if there had been more going through red rock arches and stuff like that, like in the pod racing scene, I think that would have been cool. And then another thing is also in episode 1, we're introduced to Darth Maul, who is, as far as I can remember, any character from any movie who has a double-sided lightsaber. And as a kid, you're like, what? This is so cool. This is the most amazing thing. And then we have Rey, who uses this bow staff throughout the entire trilogy. And even when she's training, at a certain point, she throws her lightsaber and then takes out the little droid with her bow instead.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she has turned the handle of her bow into the handle of her new lightsaber. And it's like, why did you not give her a double-sided lightsaber? Like the entirety of her character existing, she's got this bow staff.
Yeah.
And she's deadly with it. And then she completes her Jedi training, apparently, creates her own lightsaber as the final step, and for some reason doesn't create a double-sided lightsaber? Like, is there a shortage of kyber crystals? What's happening here?
That is interesting. I hadn't thought about that because I felt like Kylo's lightsaber represented him well. I feel like it represented his conflict. And it would, I didn't think about that. But now that you mention it, I don't know. Maybe it was just because it was a new beginning. I don't know.
I guess part of it too is that I feel like it could have really also symbolized, like her bloodline is like from the dark side and then she came to the light. It could have symbolized also how she's taken this thing that for us we've only seen on the dark side, this double-sided lightsaber, and brought that to the light side too. Yeah. And in that way, it's kind of another interesting callback. I just think it would have been a fun touch. Yeah, I agree. Also, obviously, it's a lot easier to criticize something than it is to create it. So yeah, and I'm sure it is a challenge to create something for Disney these days. Like, I feel like they've done a pretty great job on The Mandalorian. They have done a good job on The Mandalorian, yeah. Jon Favreau, I know you're listening. I just want you to know, I think you did a great job. Mandalorian. J.J. Abrams, while you're listening to this too, just know that we're not judging you. We're just you know, we're just fantasizing.
I think that, okay, speaking of Mandalorian, I think Jon Favreau, I have a hard time saying his last name, was so good for that because of his history with like Iron Man and other similar things. Like, I think that The Mandalorian is kind of perfect for him in that way. Like, he, with his other projects, does such a good job of telling those stories, creating these characters that are like bad yet good, yet, you know, like, I think that's something that comes very naturally for him.
The anti-hero?
Is
that the phrase you're
totally
looking
the
for?
anti-hero. And I think he has such good experience with that.
Was he on Friends?
Yeah, he was. He
Right.
played the chef or
Right.
not the chef. He
The
was the rich guy
restaurateur.
dating Monica,
Yeah.
and then he bought her a restaurant.
Right.
Yeah. And he gives himself a cameo in every movie that he's in that he directs.
He's also in The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about him as a person. Like, I don't know if he's a good person or not, but it's so fascinating how he seemed to start as an actor. Did he always want to be a director and writer? Or was he struggling as an actor and was like, I'll do this, and then ended up being really good at it? Like, I'm curious.
That's a good question. Speaking of giving yourself a cameo, I really love that J.J. Abrams made himself the voice of D.O.
Yeah.
And I love that, I don't know if it was intentional, but I love that D.O. basically talks like Conky from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
That was pretty great.
I mean, it was like, so much so that while we were watching it, I stopped, and that's how I found out it was J.J. Abrams' voice, because I was like, is this voiced by the person who did Conky?
That would be really
like
funny.
Conky.
Do you want to hear a fun Pee-wee fact?
Yeah, I do, always.
So Jimmy Smits, I don't know if he does anything anymore, but he was a big actor in like the 90s. His very first on-screen role, like on TV, was as the Conky repairman on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Wow.
Yep. I know he did like NYPD Blue. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
He's
who the
not
person
like-
you're talking about is. So
He was like super famous TV actor in the 90s. Like I remember he was like on TV shows that like parents would watch.
Ugh.
So like I don't really
Was he on
have.
Frasier ever? My parents didn't watch Frasier.
I don't know.
But other people's parents watched
My mom
Frasier.
watched Frasier. I loved Frasier.
I currently love Frasier.
I do still love Frasier.
Although
yeah.
I feel like Frasier, we watched it all the way through when I had never seen it before.
Yeah.
And then we watched it again, and now I feel like I need to not watch it for like 15 years before I can watch it again.
Yeah, I could see that.
Every time I try to watch it, I'm like, oh, I remember this episode too well.
Yeah, that is what you say.
And I feel like I feel that way about some episodes of The Office as well. But I also think The Office is kind of, maybe because it's less dramatic.
Yeah.
There's not so many, like, you know, the storyline between Marty and Frasier, and it's just the, you know, the drama they throw in there every now and then. It's sometimes I feel like it's not as conducive to just being a show that you can just have on in the background. As we're like, for 4.5 hours today, I had The Office playing while I was making thumbnails.
Yeah. And for me, I think Frasier is a show like that because when I was a kid and my mom would watch it, it was like that. Those are most of my memories of Frasier as a little kid, is it's just on in the background.
Interesting.
And I enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was funny. I always liked Niles.
Niles is hilarious.
Yeah.
Niles is the character that made that show, really.
Yeah. He was such a good balance to everything.
Yeah.
And everyone else.
Yeah, he's sarcastic, he's dry, he's witty.
Yeah.
He's just, yeah, he was, Niles was definitely, I think, the character that made that show.
Yeah. I like how we've now devolved from Star Wars to Frasier.
We can get back to Star Wars. I mean, we talked about Star Wars for so much, I sort of think we should just keep going.
Okay. And just make it a whole thing about Star Wars?
Yeah, otherwise it's like 45 minutes of Star Wars and 15 minutes of Frasier, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they had split it into 2 movies so that we could have gotten more out of the different characters. I just feel like there was too much to try and wrap up in that time frame. There was no way to do it. Like, there was no way to do it, basically. Like,
Yeah.
It couldn't have happened. I feel like they made the attempt, which I feel like they shouldn't have done.
Go back to telling us what you liked about it, though.
Okay. I liked that it brought back a lot of the kind of similar what you were saying about the Death Star. It brought back a lot of nods to the original series, I felt like. And so I appreciated that. I liked that overall the dialogue was less goofy and that there was less like, we're doing this to make kids in the audience laugh moments. There were still a couple, but I felt like those have been so cringy in the other movies, and I appreciate that they didn't do as many as in this one. I like that they played off so much throughout the whole movie about the deep connection that Rey and Kylo have. And how they were always able to find each other. And I felt like they really intensified that in this plot line. Yeah. Which I appreciated. I think that was downplayed too much in the second movie.
I love when they're fighting when Kylo was on the ground and Rey is in his chamber. And then she knocks Vader's mask on the ground and he's like, oh, that's where you are.
I liked the symbolism of that scene too.
What do you mean?
Like of literally knocking Vader's mask on the ground. Like
that she's the one to do it.
Yeah. That she's the one to do it and he is not shaken up by it.
Yeah.
Like his response was very mature compared to in the past.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So I liked a lot of, that's why I wish there would have been more about their plot line together, because I feel like there were so many very powerful, important moments between them.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I liked the part where they have her go to Luke's old house. If you could call it a house, his Tatooine homestead. And she slides down on the little piece of metal. I thought that was a fun kind of bringing it full circle for her.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Maybe we should stop it right here because I feel like we kind of fizzled out on the Star Wars talk.
I think so too.
All right. Well, thank you for being here with me, Tashina.
Thank you for being here with me.
I really appreciate you being on this episode of the Justin Mendez Show.
And
thanks. I would love to have you back again sometime if your schedule would allow.
I'll consider it, but no promises.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Love you. Thanks for listening.
Bye. Get out of here. Bye.